Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is a show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And before I get started, I do have a Kickstarter going on, Witches of Oz issue 3. If you are in the Wicked hype zone right now, go check out this book. It is about Glinda and the Wicked Witch finally getting together. And this issue in particular, we have a fish out of water story where Glinda and the Wicked Witch go to Kansas. So hopefully, guys, go check that out. And also at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week. So in the comments below, let me know your favorite book of the week for a chance to be featured. And if you have any thoughts on this week's comics, we'd love to hear your thoughts on everything you read. Now, I do want to talk about a topic first, so this is actually the topic of the video, and then we'll get into the comics. Michael Bendis announced that he's going to be part of the Avengers Legacy issue, teases on Facebook that there is more Marvel projects to come. For me, Marvel has needed something to bring some excitement back to the franchises. I feel like they've been kind of going with the flow with a lot of their titles, and I want to see something, again, as big as Absolute Batman or Transformers. I want to see something to get people really excited for their characters again. Now, is it Michael Bendis? I don't know. I do like Bendis's writing when it comes to Marvel. One of my favorite Avengers runs was his run. Obviously, I love Ultimate Spider-Man. But when he went to DC Comics, there wasn't many titles where I'm like, I love this series, and it didn't really feel like old Bendis to me. I think the closest was Naomi, because it felt like his own thing. It was playing with the type of characters he likes to write, and I like seeing a new voice from him. And I think that's why he kind of pivoted to indie stuff, and now is going back to Marvel. Obviously, it's definitely maybe a foreshadowing that he's going to take over Avengers, and maybe there's something different you could do. But I think something that Marvel's been relying on and hasn't really been succeeding on is older voices coming back and still not bringing that excitement. Obviously, it's nice to have these nostalgic stories, but I want something to feel big and new, and I think that's the problem we've been getting from Marvel, and I don't know if an older voice like Bendis is going to bring that excitement back. Now, the thing I would be interested in is, obviously, we need a new Ultimate Spider-Man team. Bendis goes back on the book. That could be interesting. I feel like that's where Bendis was at his best. Again, it goes back to, that's just nostalgia, right? Like, I want to see something new. I think that's the only way to make these things progress and become legacy stories. So again, I don't know if this is the move for Marvel to get this exciting level, but we'll see what Bendis ends up bringing, what he actually is going to do for Marvel as this Avengers book comes out, and we'll see where Avengers is going, and we'll see what book he's going to be on. Now let's jump into this week's comics. I did have 2 digital books, which I'll talk about later, and these are digital exclusive books, but let's start with number 13. And number 13 for me is Batman Hush 162. It took so long to get to this point. It's not a bad story. Like, this issue in particular is seeing what's going on with the Bat family, and then the end, of course, have a Joker versus Batman fight. I feel like what I don't love about this is the focus. A, again, it was very delayed. B, where's Hush? This is Batman Hush, and it's not much of Hush. And a lot of the Bat family stories feel very surface level, things I've seen before. It's like, okay, this is Dick's role, this is Catwoman's role, and it just doesn't feel new. And when you have another Batman series that takes place after this that feels more modern and new, it's like, well, I just want to read that. And again, that's kind of the failure of Batman Hush, I feel, is that it is in current continuity when it didn't need to be. I think it would have been a much stronger story, especially with the delays, if it wasn't in current continuity. And it reminds me a lot of Superman Unchained when that book came out. Very similar feel. It was very delayed. Obviously, Jim Lee did the art for both of them, and it was delayed. Then we got another Superman book that didn't tie into it, and it made Superman Unchained feel not as necessary. So I just feel like it was a little bit of poor planning for this one, even though it's a fine story that I just think is pretty forgettable. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum, issue 4. This is a book I've been enjoying, but it's just an issue that was not for me. It's the 5th dimension Mixie-Picklick story that it's just kind of off the wall. If you like the Jack Kirby type storytelling, you'll enjoy this. If you don't, you probably won't like this issue, but the next issue obviously is going to be very different. That's what's fun about Kryptonite Spectrum, is that they do different stories for each issue. It's the last issue as well for the next installment. So yeah, this one was wasn't for me, but overall I've been liking the miniseries. So giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11. Now, this is one of the digital books. It's Thor and Shazam. They are doing this initiative to, I'm guessing, promote the crossover to come, but also just to use their digital platforms, where Thor and Shazam, written by Al Ewing, has a story. And it's like, I don't know if it's 22 pages, but it feels long. It's not one of the shorter stories. It's honestly probably longer than the short stories in the back of the physical printed book that was the crossovers. And this is just a way for them for you to sign up to their digital platform and to promote their digital platform. I will say the Marvel one in particular was a little bit more difficult to sign up for. You needed the password. You needed to download the app to read the issue as well. So it had a couple extra steps to get to read this book, which I felt like DC did a little better with how to read the book. But I will give Marvel their roses here that obviously it's a book meant to read on your phone, so you're going to have a better experience if you do read it on your phone. Now, this story is just Thor and Shazam teaming up. There's not much else here besides obviously they're both gods. They have that similar theme there, and they do play with that theme. I thought the artwork was also pretty solid for this, especially for a digital book where it could have been very rushed. I felt like there was a very good style, great coloring for this one. So I liked it. I don't know if it's a necessary read. Obviously, these crossovers in general are a little hard to gauge because of that, where it's like, okay, this is fun, but like there's not an actual story you could really do unless you really do something like the Wonder Woman and Captain America story, where there's a stronger theme and a little bit more to say. So this one overall I gave 2.5 stars. I didn't feel as attached to this. Moving on to number 10, which is Green Lantern Corps issue 10. With this, we get to see the continuation of that arc. Where's John Stewart in particular after he almost died? I'm not a huge John Stewart fan, so that didn't kind of bring me through the issue. And there's a lot of characters they're trying to balance. It's always been my critique about Green Lantern Corps is I wish there was a focus and then, or every issue to explore a different Green Lantern, because it's just hard to keep up with everything. This one, I'm on the fence if I'm gonna get the next issue or not. I've been on the fence with Green Lantern Corps, but it has so heavily ties into Green Lantern that I've been continuously picking it up, but I feel like it's going on its own journey now, so I don't think I'm getting the next issue, but we'll see when that issue comes out. Overall, giving this one 3 stars. Not bad, but just if you need to drop a book, I feel like this is not as strong as Green Lantern. Moving on to number 9, which is this other digital book, and that is Fantastic Four, the Flash crossover. I like this one a little bit more because I think it had a bit more fun, where we get to see Flash deal with Gorilla Grodd and the Fantastic Four learn about Gorilla Grodd, and they travel the multiverse. There's some of the other Flash family that teams up. I do wish the other Flash family were more of a focus, because obviously the obvious theme of the Fantastic Four is family, and we didn't get that as much in this issue, but I still had a good enough time. I do feel like the artwork was strong enough, but I do think the Thor story had a bit stronger artwork, but it was fun. I would say if you have to pick out of the two, I would pick the Fantastic Four and Flash story a bit more, but I also don't think you're missing that much if you don't read these stories digitally. It's just more of like, hey, try out the digital platform and get a free story. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is C.O.R.T issue 3. This is more of an action issue, and I would even say an exposition issue. It is really an issue where we learn more about King Arthur. We meet Merlin here, the King Arthur mythology. They go to Camelot. It's really a point A to point B to get them to Camelot and to kind of get them on this adventure. So that's why it's a bit lower for me, but still a fun book. And I want to see where these characters go. So giving that one 3 stars, and moving on to number 7, which is The Amazing Spider-Man Torn issue 2. If you miss classic Spider-Man, this is classic Spider-Man to a T. JMS is writing Spider-Man again. I like the art. I like the story for the most part about this woman from stealing a book. I thought it was interesting, but I want to see more of the villain, because she is the unique part of the series that's not part of other Spider-Man stories, and every single time they focus on her, it's interesting to me. The ending is interesting, where MJ and Peter are fighting her, and like every single time the book ends more interestingly than the journey, and that's why this is a little lower, but it's still classic Spider-Man. You still get some good Spider-Man and MJ moments. You have some really solid artwork here too, and a story that's interesting enough to get you to the next issue. So if you like Lost Episode type comic books and nostalgia comics, you'll probably have a fun time with this. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Iron and Frost, issue 2. It's one of the only Age of Revelation books that I stuck with, and it's one of the only ones I could really recommend because I do feel like it plays off of the history of Iron Man and Emma Frost and feels like it's going somewhere. It's more character driven, there feels like there's more stake, and I just enjoyed the action. I enjoyed how they utilized the worlds here as Emma is dealing with being Diamond Forever and not being able to read people's minds, and Iron Man not being himself and being controlled, all while the other supporting characters are dealing with that as well. I think the artwork was solid. It makes me excited for the next issue and hope that we get more from this writer, A, because this writer did a really good job with Gwenpool as well, and I want to see what he's going to do next with Marvel, and then B, get more from Emma Frost, because those are the books I've been really enjoying the most from the X-Men in general. So giving that 3.5 stars, and if you're going to pick up any Age of Revelations book, I really do feel like it should be this one. All right, moving on to number 5, one of my favorite titles, and that is Supergirl issue 7. Again, it's just a really fun Silver Age style storytelling that still feels modern and feels new and doesn't feel like it's regurgitating story. It's just utilizing the identity of the past to tell an interesting story. And here we get to see that to a T, where they talk about the orphanage that Supergirl was in and how protective this new character is of Kara, especially against Superman, as they try to celebrate Thanksgiving and everyone has their own qualms about it, and Supergirl kind of teams up with this shark character and invites her to dinner. I felt like that was actually the part that was weaker. I think everything else surrounding it was more interesting, but it made for an interesting Thanksgiving issue, a cool team up, and again, some interesting commentary on the supporting characters in particular and where they lay on the map of Supergirl. And I just like how they use the tone and I would say time period, even though it's modern age, and just how they use the Silver Age style to its best ability. And the artwork is really nice here as well. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. All right, moving on to number 4, which is Strange Tales issue 2. If you are expecting Nico and Scarlet Witch in this issue, they are not in this issue as much as issue 1. It is focusing more on Doctor Strange and Ghost Spider's place here, but it's still really fun. I liked how they utilized the characters here. I liked Spider-Gwen's role, and obviously you are utilizing characters that people probably already like if they like characters like Nico, right? People like Nico are probably gonna like Spider-Gwen, so to have them in the same book, it's fun. I like where Spider-Gwen ends up in the end here and how it ties into Nico and Scarlet Witch, which is cool. So it was a fun issue. I like the artwork a lot for this book. It fits the YA tone. So if you're looking for a nice palette cleanser book, I think Strange Tales is the one to read. So go check out that one, and I gave that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Venom issue 251. Again, if you like the other issues, you're gonna continue to like them. If you don't, drop this book because it's gonna be the same thing over and over again. But I do like the soap opera-ness of it. I think it does fit MJ's character really well. I like how it ties into the history of both characters with Dylan's connection to Venom, with MJ's connection to Iron Man. And I like where it ends up in this issue where they're like, who is a superhero that people could relate to that we could pretend to be? And that's Spider-Man. The reason this is a little lower in the scoring department is I do feel like Luke Cage overstays his welcome in this issue. I definitely want to see more of MJ and Venom, but Luke Cage is like, who's Venom? And it takes a lot of pages in this book. But overall, I still had a fun time, and I did like the cliffhanger for this one, and the artwork is gorgeous. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Fantastic Four issue 5. I've been really liking this series, and I've been pleasantly surprised by how they utilize the serialization of it all, right? Every issue is a standalone, but it does feel like it's going somewhere. And those are some of the best comics where it's like, okay, anyone could read this issue and not feel lost, but it doesn't feel like, oh, I've seen this before. And in this issue in particular, we get to see Sue see a new angle for Black Cat and try to help her get out of jail and do this kind of like mystery with her, and then they end up becoming friends in the end. And I just liked seeing Sue be like, I don't trust Black Cat, I don't like her, to go to the other side and be like, maybe we can be friends, and maybe she's not all that bad. I just enjoyed their interaction. I like Alicia's point of view here too and her interactions, so it was a fun like girl night out issue. So giving that one 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number one I was really pleasantly surprised by, and that is American Caper issue 1 from Dark Horse. Is a new title. And I love books that dissect the American dream, dissect what we know about the American dream. And that's what this book does, where this character, he's not a good guy. He's a lawyer who kind of screws people over a lot, but he knows he's not a good guy. He doesn't live a great life. His family kind of sucks in his point of view. He has these neighbors that he thinks is perfect, and he just doesn't like where America's at. He doesn't like where his life is at, and he really explains that to a T in this issue. And then the twist of it is that we do get the point of view of the neighbor who seems to be perfect, and he's a killer, he's a murderer. So you're like, whoa, okay, that's interesting for a plot-wise, to be like, okay, so where's this gonna go as a murder mystery? But then there's a lot of great commentary about America, about people and interpersonal relationships that makes this feel like a really well-rounded issue 1, where you're just enjoying that issue as an issue, and then that cliffhanger is like, well, now I want to read more. Now I want to see what this series is about. So I just think it balances things really well, and if you enjoy commentary like that, you're going to enjoy this book. It's really well written, and I was very pleasantly surprised by it. So that is my pick of the week. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was. This is Comic Uno. Last week's viewer pick of the week was Absolute Green Lantern, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.